Jaguars GM James Gladstone is feeling a little bit of heat from fans. I'll tell you why that's a shame in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the number one sports podcast network. This is Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars each and every day. Shout out to the everydayers that actually do that. If you're new here, I'll give you a reason to come back and hang around with us each and every day. Been credentialed for a couple of decades now, so I kind of believe I have my finger on the pulse of this team. I'm going to navigate you through some of the things that's going on around the fandom of the Jacksonville Jaguars today. Make sure you tap in wherever you get your podcast so you do not miss an episode of the show, an episode like the one today that is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I'm going to give you a little bit of a roadmap to where we're going, and then I'll tell you where we're going to start this show. We're just going to be looking ahead to the rest of the season in segment number 3, and I'll tell you why by looking at the schedule, why these games are so critical for Jacksonville and everything that they want to accomplish is right in front of them. James Gladstone has to stand firm. Don't be listening to the wind. You know, the wind will blow a whole bunch of different ways, man. He has to stand firm in what he believes. We'll talk about starting the show, though, talking about Travis Hunter, the injury and how it brings out the wolves. I guess you can call them wolves, or there's that meme that we always see on social media, people crawling up out of the sewer whenever something happens that can support an agenda or a narrative. That's exactly what will happen. And it's reared its ugly head. And I warned everyone yesterday when I did the special show on Travis Hunter's injury. I'm sure we'll talk more about that today on the squad show with me, O'Brien, and Marquise Ogden as well. But right now, Locked On Jaguars on our daily, we're going to go over it. It's unfortunate what happened to Travis. I'll repeat that. But what I said yesterday, injuries are a part of it. Non-contact injury during practice, LCL out for the rest of the season. Just to recap, 6-month rehab recovery should be ready to go by the time they roll back around and OTAs and all of that stuff in minicamp. But until then, we got to hear from the naysayers, and the naysayers are they're in a bunch of different groups here. Some of them are people that rightfully so have disagreed with the fact that the Jaguars gave up so much currency to go get a player who doesn't have a defined position. I can understand that. And to those people, this ain't you. We're not talking about you, and we're not talking to you here this morning. There might be some shrapnel where you get hit a little bit, but it's not necessarily aimed at you. It's aimed at the people who change their opinion based on an injury. To me, that makes absolutely zero sense. If your opinion is the Jaguars should not have traded up for Travis Hunter, we could have had that debate all day. But we're not going to use the dude's injury and the dude's misfortune as a way to now come out and peacock around as if like, I told you so. Told us what? You didn't tell us that he was going to hurt himself in practice, did you? No, you didn't. Injuries happen. Injuries could have happened regardless of who they picked. By picking him, they didn't happen because they picked him, and they also probably didn't have it didn't have anything to do with the fact that he goes multiple ways. Since when do we criticize people for working harder? We don't. Those are just things that people want to bring up now that Travis Hunter is banged up. If you watch football for a long time and you're just talking your way through it and you're just being a barbershop type fan, I get it. I can't do that. That's not what we do here. I get paid to be a professional and give my opinion based on rationale and fact, and that's what I'm going to try to do here for you guys today. Don't have a problem with anybody that thought that the Travis Hunter pick was a mistake from the gate. That's just your opinion. Cool. We've debated that over and over. We know about the why. We know about the why not. Here's the problem I have. I have a problem with people that now that he's hurt are looking at the fact that, and it's a legitimate fact. The legitimate fact is when anybody can get hurt, and when they do get banged up, it's hard to replace them when you don't have capital that you've given up. We get that, right? He won't have to be replaced next year. He'll be back at the start of next season. So thinking that somehow he got hurt, now we got to find somebody to replace him. You're gonna have to find somebody to replace him anyway. That's why they went and got Jacoby Myers this year. You can't replace the most talented player on your team during the season. You ain't gonna have to replace him next year because he'll be back at the start of next season. So we can kill that narrative. The other part of it is now saying now it looks like a mistake when 2 weeks ago it didn't look like a mistake to you. If I'm not going to call you an idiot, but I'm going to just tell you that you really, really have to re-examine the way that you look at and talk about football to other people. You can feel how you want to feel with yourself, and you can have opinions because everybody has one. In fact, I get paid to give mine here. But the thing is, man, it makes absolutely no sense for you to use the injury as a way to say that they shouldn't have done it. It's dumb. One thing about me, if anybody's ever listened to me when I was doing radio, I always said I used to argue on air with one of my co-hosts and the people I work with. I said the guy's not a bust if he gets hurt. A guy's not a bust if somebody else just turns out to be a little bit better than he was that the Jaguars didn't pick. A guy's a bust when he doesn't work hard and when no matter what he does, he was never going to be a good player in the first place. That's how you label a guy a bust. You don't label a guy a bust when they get hurt. So any talk of Travis Hunter being a bust is premature and it's whack because it's just not true based on what the small sample size that you were able to see with the dudes splitting time, how he was able to play at a very, very high level for both sides of the ball. Questionable, maybe in terms of why would you try to do it? Sure, we can argue that point. That has been argued ad nauseum. But to sit here now and backtrack and to attack James Gladstone for being bold for something that everyone and their brother, outside of the group of people that I already talked about, who were indifferent to the pick in the first place, but to now all of a sudden talk about how great it was and now talk about how great it isn't and how this is all on him and is his fault. To me, it sucks and it stinks and it's something that I really don't have any respect for because you're using right nowism to determine a big picture. And the thing about the right nowism you're using, it was an accident. It was something that just happened. People get hurt. You think somebody really tried to tear their LCL? You don't think he wants to be out there? Nah, man. So to me, it's not even something that happened on the field because he wasn't strong enough or too weak, or there's nothing about this that you can attribute to the draft process. Like I said, if you were a person like that is against giving up a whole bunch of stuff for a dude like Travis, then I'm not arguing with you. I'm not. And you can take a victory lap if you want. That's fine based on somebody being hurt. But I'm not arguing with you. I'm going to actually defend General Manager James Gladstone here in segment number 2. And I know I'm going to get the proverbial or the obligatory, Wig just saying that because he wants his access to the team. Wig had access to the team for 2 decades. I ain't worried about access to no team. If you think like that, you can find something else to listen to because I don't move that way. And what we do here is honesty. It's our opinions. Like I said, it's my opinion based on logic, based on common sense, and based on the truth. And we're not going to get into that kind of stuff. But anybody that looks at him now as somehow he has failed the Jaguars, but you didn't think that a week or 2 ago, then like I said, this is for you. This is a message for you to pay attention to. And by the way, if you listen to the special show I did yesterday when Travis got hurt, I warned everybody it was coming, and I'll be dang, it didn't even take 12 hours before people started doing it and started saying it. So we'll discuss James Gladstone and how he has to deflect some of this stuff and not even pay attention to it. We'll get into it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by BetterHelp. As the days get shorter and the nights come earlier, it can start to feel a little heavier, especially when life is already packed with work, family, and everything else. This season, it is so important to reach out and check in with friends, family, and even yourself. Just like checking in on a teammate or reconnecting with someone you haven't seen in a while, it can really lift your spirits. Reaching out for therapy can make a real difference too. BetterHelp makes that first step easier by connecting you with a licensed therapist online from wherever you are. Therapy works. I am proof positive. I know everybody looks at me sometimes and thinks that, oh, he's strong minded, he's strong willed, he can get over it, he can figure it out. No, I actually do, but I do it with the help of therapy, and you can do the exact same thing with BetterHelp. This month, don't wait to reach out, whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself. BetterHelp makes it simple to take that first step. Listeners get 10% off their first month and at betterhelp.com/locked on. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/locked on. Because taking that step towards support might just leave you wondering, why didn't I do this sooner? All right, moving along here on Locked On Jaguars, where it is your team every day. All right, let's talk about James Gladstone. The people have their fangs out. The wolves have come out of nowhere. They're circling like a bunch of hyenas, and they want their pound of flesh because Travis Hunter is out for the rest of the season, and the Jaguars are mired in what looks like a little bit of a slump and a road bump they've hit. They started the season 4-1, and they're now 5-4. That means they're 1-3 in their last 4 games. Had the catastrophic failure in the fourth quarter the other day and gave up 26 points and lost a game that they found a way to win games like that earlier this year when they did not play well, and we just took it. Now we just got to take the one where it lined up and they didn't take it. But with the news coming out that Travis Hunter is gone for the season, it has now caused people to not even look back at the Travis Hunter trade on draft day, but every single move that James Gladstone has now made, and now start questioning each and every one of those moves, including ones that where he sent away Christian Kirk in the offseason. And I don't know how anybody could look at that and sit here and think, oh yeah, Christian Kirk would make a real tremendous difference on this team this year. This is where I tell people, look, they are 5-4. They've already won one more game than they did last year. And I know I normally don't do stuff like that because last year's results has nothing to do with this year's expectations. But for those that think that this team hasn't even improved a little bit, oh, you must have forgot how bad it was before. They have actually improved a lot. They can actually run the football. Okay, they, believe it or not, Trevor Lawrence has run for his life against Seattle and against Houston. But other than that, maybe one more game too against the Rams, he was running for his life as well. But for the most part, there have been games where he's been super, super clean. There have been a lot of things that have gone wrong this year. The main thing that went wrong this year, in my opinion, is Brian Thomas Jr. just decided he wasn't going to play as well as he did this year. Last year, he wasn't going to play that way this year. That, to me, is number one. Number two is, where is the pass rush, and where has it gone since the beginning of the season? They have a lot of money committed there. I know Trayvon. I don't think Trayvon can fully use his hand the way he'd been able to. And I think what he's doing is, and believe it or not, the staff knows this. They know he's probably braving this thing out and doing everything he can to help the team. So while everybody's sitting there talking about where's he at, there's probably a little bit more to that than you guys can imagine, that the team also does know. Folks are raving about the fact that Eric Armstead leads the team in sacks at 4.5, and he's back inside where he needs to be. But then folks are still talking about pressure. Well, it all leads back to James Gladstone, and people are saying, what did he do? What did he do? What he didn't do was hurt Travis Hunter. What he didn't do was stand pat and sit there and wait at number 5 while Travis Hunter would have been gone. Abdul Carter would have been gone, and the left tackle that ended up, Will Campbell, would have been gone. The Patriots were taking Will Campbell. Okay, so they would have sat at number 5 and been sitting there looking at taking Mason Graham, who is also a 3 technique, who plays exactly where Eric Armstead plays, and he does not play nose tackle. He does not play where Devon Hamilton plays. So I want to make that very, very clear. Maybe Armand Membu could have been the choice if they didn't take Travis Hunter, and they would have still had their second-round pick. And Membu would have actually been a good player, but for them to do that, they would have moved Anton Harrison to left tackle and bench Walker Little, who makes well over $10-12 million a year. That just doesn't seem feasible to do economically and just as far as the team building is concerned. So what, y'all want them to take Ashton Genty? I mean, it's easy to sit back and second guess someone. It's weird to do it after the player that he picked got hurt in a non-contact injury. But now there's questions about all of it. It's like we don't even see Bashaw Tootin out there playing. We don't even see 36 out there being a good third down back and doing pass protection. It's like we don't see that stuff. If we don't see Wyatt Milam out there running around, all of a sudden everything's a failure, right? So I guess Rayon Lane doing the things that he's doing on special teams, looking like an all-pro, it doesn't matter, right? All because they had another injury from a secondary player that they took in the third round of the draft this year. And all of a sudden now this entire draft class is some sort of a failure. That's not true. That is absolutely not true. Draft classes, in my opinion, sometimes take 2 to 3 years for those guys to really, really show up and manifest themselves. This is Parker Washington's third year. Parker Washington is out there doing his thing, right? But if Parker Washington was going to do his thing, that kind of means that Christian Kirk had to not be there in order for him to do that. There's a lot of discussion about Diami Brown, who's been hurt, and when he wasn't hurt, he was dropping passes too. That's one I might give you. I might give you that and say, no, we might have could have used that money on something else and maybe another player. And you would probably be correct in that assessment. But all in all, I do believe that they onboarded people correctly and they got guys to come in here and play and be successful. And then nobody mentions Jordan Lewis and Eric Murray and how well they were playing prior to them getting banged up. No one mentions the fact that Devin Lloyd, who had been on a milk carton for most of his career in Jacksonville, was sitting there as the defensive player of the month the first week and looked like the most improved player, comeback player of the year, and maybe even a first-team All-Pro before he was injured. So there leaves a lot to be decided. Nobody's talking about Robert Hainsey and how he stabilized the interior part of the offensive line, and there's really, really been a total upgrade over anything you've seen at center since Brandon Linder. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about the good use of Brendan Strange before he got hurt, and then the subsequent pretty decent use of Hunter Long and Johnny Munt since Brendan Strange has been out. No one's talking about the improvement of Travis Etienne. He's probably going to go over 1,000 yards this year, right? And the running game and the ability to hit explosive when things have gone well. Those are all things that to me point upward. But yet still, it seems like the common thing to do is when things go wrong is to find someone you can blame. And it's real easy to find someone when that person talks a certain way. And James Gladstone has said stuff like game on. And James Gladstone has done things a little bit differently. And you heard other GMs talk about young guys playing fantasy football, and you know who they're sideways out the side of their neck throwing shade at and talking about. And yet and still, folks would want to play right into it. This is what bothers me, that when somebody else says something, you want to jump all over them, but then you end up saying the exact same thing yourself. And you say, yeah, Wig, well, it's our team. We can talk about it. I don't care whose team it is. The thing is when you say it, you actually perpetuate that foolishness that other people outside of this market are trying to put on this team. I mean, just imagine the Jaguars boldly move up to take Travis Hunter. Y'all can't act like they don't want him to succeed because they boldly move up to get him. And then because the success comes a little bit slower, could it have been maybe his development before he got to Jacksonville? No, it couldn't have been that. It had to be that the Jaguars were doing something wrong because his output didn't match your expectations. Could it be that they were transparent this whole time and told you that they were going to try to see how this could work out while appeasing the wishes of the young man. And then when it doesn't work, they get blamed for that. And then they get blamed for him getting hurt. And then they get blamed for, well, they shouldn't have picked him in the first place. This is just typical sometimes of an expected reaction that I think is a little bit off. And I'm going to defend the people over there that have to make decisions. At least they're trying to do something and they're proactive and they're telling you exactly what they can do. Now, criticize it all you want, but don't wait until somebody gets hurt and then start criticizing something that has nothing to do with the fact that that person got injured. And that person's injury has nothing to do with the fact that your opinion changed based on the fact that he got hurt, and him getting hurt should have had no effect on how you felt about when they acquired Travis Hunter in the first place. I'm going to talk about how to look ahead and move forward. But first, I'm going to tell James Gladstone, man, just stay strong, man. Don't worry about the foolishness. Just let it go in one ear and out the other. Garbage in, garbage out. Talking about looking ahead for the Jaguars. We'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show sponsored and brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times help keep from punting projects when you're trying to get them done. And while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. If you need parts for a project, Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. That is definitely one of them. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SH, like Supply House, NFL 5. SH NFL 5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Today's show is also sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. That's right. FanDuel makes it all possible, man, because the NBA is back and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. If you missed the start of a game and you want to ride the hot hand like Wemby, Wemby is on fire, man. FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, man, rolling along here on Locked On Jaguars is segment number 3. We got to look ahead, man. When y'all get over your feelings and start blaming James Gladstone somehow for Travis Hunter being hurt and the Jaguars not having a first-round pick, and you get over that and you realize you were doing cartwheels on draft night and you were happy that the Jags were getting someone that the national media would pay attention to that would raise the talent of this team. When you get over all of that and you can come back down to earth, you realize that the Jaguars still have an awful lot to play for the rest of the season. If the playoffs were to start today, they'd be in it. They'd absolutely be in it. They'd be the 7th seed, but they'd be there. And they'd be playing against the Patriots. I think the Jaguar fans would absolutely take that. Yeah, they'll take it. Take it in a heartbeat. Because the Jaguar fans probably believe they could beat the Patriots, right? Maybe they would play the Patriots. The Patriots might get a bye, so that means they probably have to play Buffalo or Denver, and it'd be a little bit more difficult, but it would still be possible. So to look ahead a little bit here at the schedule, at 5-4, the Jacksonville Jaguars are 5-4. Let's just assume and say that the magic number is 10. So if they're 5-4, they have to go 5-3 in their next 8 games. That could be a little bit challenging. So let's look at this schedule and see exactly where they are. They may have already played the 2 best teams on their schedule with the Rams and the Seahawks. Those games didn't go the way you wanted them to go, especially the Rams game. it's quite possible that they've already done that. They play the Chargers this week. It'll be a good game between them and another team that is right now the 6th seed in the Chargers. Basically, if they beat the Chargers, they'll probably flip-flop and end up either the 5th or the 6th seed. After that, they play Arizona. They go out to Arizona. Winnable, both winnable games. Home game against the Chargers is definitely winnable. They ain't the most explosive team on offense, and they got some holes in their offensive line, and the Jaguars have to exploit that. All right, after the Cardinals, they play Tennessee. So they could easily be 3-0, but they could more probably be 2-1 after those two games. So that would put them at 7-5. Okay. Then they have the Colts, and that's a big game. It's a home game here in Jacksonville. Huge game on December 7th where they play the Colts. Let's just say they don't win that and they go 7-6, and then they play the Jets. That puts them at 8-6. That puts them at 8-6 with 3 games to go, and you would think that they would have to win 2 of those 3. One of them is against Denver, out at Denver, a very tough place to play against a good team. However, it's a beatable team because they also don't score a lot of points offensively. So it's a game that Jaguars can definitely pull off. Then they go and play the Colts again. They got to get one of those 2 to hit the magical number of 10. And then in week 18, they play the Titans again. And I think that that's a win. So it's going to come down to one of those 2 games against the Colts. They got to get one of those games. And then, to me, they would have to win 2 of the next 3, or one of the next 2. If they could get that one against the Colts, the Chargers in Arizona, it'd be nice if they could get both of them. If they get both of them, that makes this a lot easier for them to make the playoffs. Worst case scenario for me right now, I think the Jags go 9-8, and we've seen them have 9 and 8 years before. And I'm going to tell you something. Nobody will say this out loud, but if you'd have caught this new staff privately and been a fly on the wall and say 9-8, they'd have took it right there. They say, yep, we'll sign up for that right now. And I usually don't do this. And the reason why I don't do it is because I'm not going to ignore the fact that even if they went 9-8, that you won't look at 4 or 5 of those games and go, they had them. They could have won them. Like the game the other day, they could have won that game easily. They should have won it, right? So you look at that and you look at the Bengals game and you go, they should have won that one too, So that's the frustrating part, that 9-8 could very well easily be 11-6, right? Or even 12-5. Hopefully they get to that point. I don't think it'll be too much worse than that. And then you'll be looking at it and you'll go, okay, if they're not in the playoffs, they're right on the outside of the playoffs looking in, and you can't tell me that's a total failure. Now, yeah, they got some things that they need to do. They got a whole round of free agency next year. I think they'll be better off for it. They have a whole round of drafts, even though they don't have a first round pick. They have a second round pick and I think 3 or 4 third round picks, which means they can do some moving up. They also have some players that have value that maybe they want to move on from. The outlook is that for the rest of the season, they get better play from their edge rushers. Devin Lloyd comes back. They get Jordan Lewis and Eric Murray back to make those 1 or 2 plays that would have gotten them the victory the other day. And then the offensive line kind of just grinds through it and starts to play better. Maybe Wyatt Milam develops a little bit. They get Ezra Cleveland back, and then they look into the offseason and they start upgrading at certain positions. Maybe they move some people around. All in all, it's too early to say whether James Gladstone is a failure or a fraud, and I've seen that too much on my timeline. It just shouldn't even be a point or a topic of discussion, but everybody has their own opinion, but people can also ignore that opinion if it's too outrageous. And some of it is that what we need to choose to do. All right, man, we'll have a crossover tomorrow with my boy Drogi from out at Locked On Chargers. We'll talk about mainly the Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence matchup. A lot of arguing have gone back and forth between the fan bases about those 2 players. Everything you want to know about the NFL, you can find out on Locked On NFL. It is twice a day on Locked On NFL. Tyler Rowland in the morning, and then me in the afternoon at about 2 o'clock with the second episode that keeps you up to date on everything that's going on around the National Football League with the use and the help of local experts and clips from them covering their local team like I do here on Locked On Jaguars. Each and every day, thank you to the everydayers for joining us. I don't take y'all for granted. Man, please please keep in mind that you can't judge everything based on the current situation. Don't let the trolls fool you and get you caught up in thinking that James Gladstone has failed because Travis Hunter got hurt. That is the most dumbest, most idiotic thing I've ever seen. And my fans won't do that because Locked On Jaguars, y'all are too smart. Y'all have made us the #1 podcast network, and we appreciate it. We'll see you later.